You're listening to a free audio download from Venue Cymru's International Concert Series.
Welcome to the second November edition of pre-concert interviews from Venue Cymru. The Czech Symphony Orchestra, whilst on their UK tour, treated the audience not only to Schubert's Unfinished Symphony, but to music of their homeland with Dvorak's Ninth Symphony. As if this wasn't enough, pianist Noriko Ogawa joined the orchestra to perform Grieg's Piano Concerto. Noriko met up with us for a chat before this exciting concert began.
Now, over the past few years, we've had a number of winners of the BBC Young Musician of the Year competition, Nicola Benedetti and Freddie Kempf and so on. But this year we actually have one of the adjudicators of the competition.
Yes, that's right.
So, Noriko, I wondered if you could give us some kind of insight or an idea of what you're really looking for when we get to the competition stage with the youngers.
As an adjudicator?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Of course, well, nowadays the young musicians all have amazing technique. Probably thing that we are looking for all the time is probably the power of communication. How musicians can communicate with the audience through their music is something that we're looking for. If a pianist is playing to himself or herself, and then I always say to, not to competitors, but when I teach, for example, I say to my pupils that if you want to just play to yourself, and you might as well just stay in your house and then play to yourself. But if you want to play to the audience, you have to communicate. So that's what I am looking for.
Yeah. Sure.
So you've mentioned that you're a teacher as well as a performer. You've got a post here in London. I was just wondering, how important do you think it is to teach as well as perform? Does it give you a different dynamic when you
Yes, yes. Of course, it's not a one-way system. Teaching is a two-way system, and I get a lot of things from young pianists. It is very important to see another end of performing. Everything is changing all the time. You know, the style is changing. Ability of technique. You know, it's like watching figure skating or athletics, gymnastics on the Olympics. I'm not saying that piano playing is at the Olympics, but when I was a child, you know, maybe going around maybe twice was an amazing thing. I could see. Now it's E or G or something like this, and then so you know the piano technique is the same. You know, the youngsters now, they can play much better in some ways, but then on the other hand, the music is not only that. You know, we have to be able to communicate, and so yes, teaching is very important because I'm always updated with the ability of the young ones, and then it's always great for me as well to know how far they are actually going.
Yeah. So do you think you actually come up with a sort of joint project if a student's working on a piece, rather than just teaching them, say, your framework or your version of playing? Do you think you prefer to come up with something together?
Yes, that's right. Well, actually, I'm a teacher at Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and we actually have a project together every year, and then I am heavily involved. It's a performing project, and I think the coming school year, we are going to actually perform together. So you know, it is really very important. But in any case, when I actually not criticize, but when I give advice to my pupils, I of course I make them play and practice in front of me, and then get what I want from them. But after that, it's you know, the interpretation wise, and those things we work together. Things that I teach youngsters is that how we should present ourselves on the platform and things like that. You know, little things like that. You know, I teach. I really do teach. But certain things, yes, we work together.
So as well as being a teacher and a solo performer, you're also you've become artist in residence at Bridgewater Hall in Manchester last year, directing the Debussy Festival. What can you tell us about this role? What did it involve?
Last year it was the 150th anniversary of Debussy's birth, so that's why we came up with the idea of festival at Bridgewater Hall. It was really lovely. Debussy's music is not very often played in a big bulk, so it was very nice for me because he's my favorite composer. And also Debussy's music has a lot of association with Japanese music, and I wanted to introduce some Japanese culture and Japanese music through French Debussy, because there are certain things that we have in common, we thought. So that was really very, very exciting for me. And we invited some performers from Japan, and we really enjoyed the collaboration.
Yeah. Now we're coming on to collaborations in a minute, but you've also become an artistic advisor back at home in a new symphonic hall.
Yes, that's already about what now, 9 years old or something. But 2 years ago, when the tsunami came, the ceiling came down from at the concert hall. So the hall was out of function for out of order for 2 years, but it's been reopened. But that is back in my own country, and what I'm trying to do is really to sort of blow air from this end to Japan, because in Japan somehow that musical fans are so fixed with the idea of Austrian and German cultures, and then I always tell them that it's not only that, because German orchestras and German music scene is so fixed with they are fixed with their own fantastic, very rich tradition. Yeah. But in the UK, the people are much more open-minded and then wanting to try new things or come up with new ideas. And I think Japan should have, should follow that kind of path. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Sure. How much are you focusing on British music? I mean, I know you were playing at the Proms this year with a lot of sort of very unknown unworks like the Elgar Nursery Suite and so on. So.
Well, what we did, I only played one concerto, that was with Catherine Stott, and then we played Malcolm Arnold piano concerto for 3 hands, 2 pianos, because it was written for a pianist who could not use his left hand anymore. But it is. I think it's important to keep trying new things and some a little bit lesser known pieces, but then we always have some wonderful pieces. So yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do.
So linking on from wanting to do lesser known pieces.
Yes.
You're also quite an advocate of new commissions. So have you got any projects in the pipeline coming out soon? And what do you think is the importance of doing commissions and new works?
Well, even well, at Beethoven's time, Beethoven was avant-garde, and people could not believe some kind of dissonant chords that he was using and diminished chords that he was using. And it is very important to really realize that the composers were actually alive at once upon a time. And then now we are actually here making history ourselves. And then it is important. I mean, it's very exciting for me to speak to composers that they would die if they didn't write music. So it's that desperate for them to write music. So for me to actually realize their sort of a kind of wish at the keyboard that I can actually engineer somehow, it is very interesting. And of course, composers always come up with some impossible things, and there was one composer who wrote a piano concerto for me, and I said my hands are not this big each hand, and then he said, well, and I said, well, you're telling me to play a chord about this wide, just one go in one hand. He says yes. I said, well, yes, but look, look at my hands, they're not as big. No, but try. Composers, to push really as far as. So that's why that, and I always tell them, no, piano doesn't work that way. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. And this kind of rather vigorous conversation is actually a part of fun, and then I always think that Beethoven must have demanded something quite impossible at that time, and pushed as far as he could do. So that's why I'd like to sort of think that we are actually part of music history.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Beethoven on that scale, because when he'd written the violin concerto, and the first violinist who was going to play it was just saying, "No, it's too much for my fingers. It just can't do it." And he said, "Oh well, down with your fingers. This is like a divinely inspired composition. You know, just get." So it works very well that it's come
up. You like to get involved with charities and things that you feel very passionate about. Is that simply because you feel passionate about that charity and that cause, or do you think it's something that all musicians or all artists should be inspired to take on something like that?
Well, the charity work that I do, I don't even think that it's a charity. It's the concert series called Jamie's Concert, and then when I first started it, I was slightly laughed at. So it has nothing to do with that a musician should do something about it, or that people should get involved in charity work and things like that. It just comes from really, really deep part of my heart. When I first started career in London, I was a lodger in musician's house, and the couple who owned the house had a very, very, very severely autistic boy, and then I lived with this autistic boy for 2 years, and I realized that how hard it was for the family members to live with this very, very lovely looking boy, but he was just simply very, very difficult to live with. And but then, of course, the family, the couple, his sister love him to bits, but practically speaking, there were lots of things that they couldn't do because of him. And I really wanted to help them, but he knew, I'm sure a lot of you know the nature of this very difficult autism, but although he was not able to, he still is not able to talk, but speak at all. But he knew that I was just a lodger, and I was the lowest in the family ranking as far as the family goes. And so if I cooked for him, he refused to eat, and if I tried to wipe his bottom, he refused. So if I wanted to, if I wanted to do something to him directly, he refused everything, because he knew I was not his sister, I was not his mother, and he would let his mother do many more things. So I realized that I shouldn't really bother, his name is Jamie, I shouldn't really bother Jamie's sensitive nerves. What I can do is to entertain his parents. So that's why I run this concert series, and it really just, I just believe in this that kind of not theory or anything, but if parents, if the mother in particular feels kind of easier, even just for one day, and then that wavelength reaches the child, and so that's why I run this concert series. I've done 11th concert, Jamie's concert in Japan in October this year, and I've done 3 in the UK, and I have to change slightly, change the style slightly. In Japan, it's only just still trying to raise awareness, but back in the UK, I've realized that I am actually able to raise money through doing things. The third one in particular, it became really very successful, because I didn't mention one word of money. I didn't ask for money or anything. I just made an appeal during the concert, and then I've raised more than £12,000 after just one concert. So I am sure that the people somewhere understand what I'm trying to do. So that's what I do. Yes, that's the kind of. I'm so passionate that once you make me talk about it, I can't stop. But anyway,
that's brilliant.
Yes. So.
Well, if we could move on to tonight's music. So you're playing Grieg Piano Concerto. You've actually recorded this for CD in 2008. So obviously the studio environment is very different to live concert hall. It can be quite nitpicky maybe. How do you think that from working in the studio, how does that reflect on how you later perform it in in concert?
Well, I can hardly remember the details of the recording anymore now, but it is really true that recording, you know, it's not only just now we are not communicating with the audience, we are now communicating with the microphones and the producer, and some sort of certain really weird things that we would never ever worry about in everyday life suddenly comes to a big issue. For example, a producer suddenly says that, oh, I can hear you're pedaling. And, or I can hear that the piano bumpers coming up and down. Well, nothing much I can do. If I play, of course, bumpers go up and down. But that sort of thing becomes such a problem. So CD recording is a very different style of making music. So since the memory of my recording studio of this Grieg particular concerto is really not with me anymore, I mean, I've forgotten most of it. So that, but then I can only tell you about my live performance experience about this concerto. I was privileged to perform this concerto twice in Bergen. That's where Grieg comes from. And in Bergen, everybody knows this concerto absolutely inside out. Unlike Mozart or Beethoven, who wrote many piano concerti, Grieg wrote this one. So everybody knows this piece, ear-friendly piece, from the beginning to the end. And not only that, every single person in the audience has opinion, some sort of opinions. And as soon as I finished playing that concerto, the venue is a little bit like here tonight, that the stage is kind of lower part. So people could just actually run downstairs to grab a pianist. So both times, as soon as I finish, when they could tell that I'm just about to disappear into the dressing room, somebody is behind me and they grab my arm and said, "Your A minor is," and then they start telling me the kind of instant review, and that was very scary. That was so scary. And second movement was like this, and your tempo was like that, and when you got into that chord, you were like this, and did you like it? Like this, and it continued to happen even on the street after the concert. Well, you know, you played that concerto, didn't you? So I really became really quite nervous and then scared about it after the performance. And anyway, so the day after, I was about to go home. So I reached the airport and then reached the boarding gate, and I thought, phew, now I'm safe. And then my flight was called, and I went to the boarding gate. When I showed my boarding card, the chap who was checking the boarding, "Oh, I was at the concert last night." And I thought, oh my goodness. So yes, so this memory is much stronger than my recording studio.
Behave yourselves this evening, ladies and gentlemen. There's also quite a lot of Norwegian folk tunes involved in this piece, and everybody's going to know the beginning from Andre Preview, of course. I'm sure everyone will remember, with all the right notes in it. Yeah, right.
Yes, in the right order.
And Andrew Preview.
And was it Andrew?
Yes.
I just assumed it was Andre Preview. I don't know. Well, anyway, this evening, with the use of folk song in quite a lot of the piece, how do you try and emphasise this aspect, or do you just let it sort of?
Well, not too much, but on the other hand, when I actually played in Bergen, Norwegian musicians did tell me that, of course, Grieg went to Germany to study, and you know he wanted to be as European as possible. So, but on the other hand, in the last movement, they did tell me that the rhythm should be, how can I say, heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they told me. Not too many other places, but in the third movement, the heaviness of rhythm should be shown.
Is this something then you like to then try and bring to different orchestras you play it with?
Sorry?
Do you like to then bring this aspect
well,
to the different orchestras?
I don't always tell them verbally. I just play the way I want, and or you know the way that I've learned from this experience, And then I don't actually stand up and say that, well, in Norway, no, I don't really say that, because I'm not really Norwegian myself. And if somebody corners me, so okay, now start dancing, then show me, and then I don't think I can. So
We're not doing that this evening.
no, okay.
There's also, and you mentioned the sort of the German schools, and of course you went to the Conservatoire in Leipzig that Mendelssohn started, and with sort of Schumann and Mendelssohn as models. Do you think he still wanted to take his own path, or to try and emulate them more?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know. But coming from Norway, where those days I don't think there was any music conservatoire, and then they, the musicians, music students had to go somewhere to study, and I am sure that somewhere back in his mind that Grieg wanted to sound as German as possible. And that happened, I say that because that could happen to a lot of Japanese composers. But then somehow this Norwegian aspect or non-Germanic aspect permeates, that it somehow comes through, whether he wants or not. And that also, I can say that for Japanese composers as well. Takemitsu always said that I want to sound as European as possible, but his music never sounds completely European. Somehow this kind of Japaneseness comes through. So I think in the end, Grieg, in my personal opinion, he probably tried to be very Germanic, but he goes back to Norway, and then he sees all this scenery, and then he probably reminds him. He must have been reminded by all that that's where he comes from.
Yeah, sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can think about this whilst we listen to the piece later on. But please keep it amongst yourselves and don't disregard it. Well, just before we let you go, one final question we always like to ask is what advice you might have for the younger musician.
The advice.
If you have them.
Music performance, unfortunately, comes with a lot of practice. So we have to practice certain hours a day, and but we cannot escape from that. But after that, I think if you are studying with somebody, you have to be extremely. How can I say? You have to try to get everything out of your teacher. Ask many questions, and you can make her angry with too many questions, and you have to be extremely proactive. Yeah. And that's the only way really to go forward, I think.
Great. Well, I'm sure we're all looking forward to hearing you play later. So please join me in
Well, thank you very
Noriko.
much indeed. Thank you.
For more information, please see our website www.venuecymru.co.uk